All right, excited for our guest today, Coach Mike Lightfoot, a legend. But thanks for taking the time to be with us, Coach. And we're going to jump right in with our power question. What does it mean to you to be a Christian coach?
Wow, that means a lot to me because when I think about being a Christian and what the importance of that is in itself is, being a light into the dark world and to share that light with the people that you're around. I think as a coach, you really have a tremendous responsibility that we cannot overlook in any way or any form, that we are accountable to the young men or young women that we are coaching to be a light to them, to be an example of what a Christian person should be. Unfortunately, that's really not what's happening as we watch TV or watch sometimes the actions of coaches. They are not investing in their players. They're really focused in on self.
Mm.
And so those are the things I think are very important. But the main thing I think, Jim, is what you're doing with your guys and gals when you're not coaching.
Mm.
You still need to be invested in them. I think that's when the real impact happens in a coach player relationship, is the things that you can do off the floor that you're pouring into them. So then they will have more of an opportunity to listen to things that you're trying to
Mm.
teach them. And so I really think that the key of a Christian coach is how much time you're spending away from the court, away from the field, and really, really spending quality time to get to know the story of your players. If you don't know the story of your players, then how are you going to relate to them
Yeah.
and impact their lives?
Man, I'm taking notes, Coach. That was beautiful. I mean, that's an incredible answer, and I know you live that. I love how you said being light. I love how you said investing. Man, that's just a great term. And like you said, everyone has a story, and those kids know when you invest in them, they'll end up eventually running through a wall for you. And I'm sure you had players that would do that for you. Well, I know that you were at Bethel, and for those listening to the podcast, they can't see it, but if you're on YouTube watching, I pulled out my high school jersey for Coach today, Bethel.
Yes, that
So
is my number,
that's
number
crazy. We were
21.
talking off air, and Coach's eyes lit up. He said, "That is my number." So 21. I squeezed into it a little bit, but I know you're at Bethel, Coach, for 30 years. I know that you were a player there, but let's rewind way before that, Coach. Talk to me about what it was like being 8 years old, 9 years old. What was it like being Mike Lightfoot back then? Where you grew up? Maybe siblings, parents. Take us back.
Oh my goodness. That's way back before electricity.
Yeah.
You know? Well, I grew up here in Indiana, and lived in a small town of 500 people, counting cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Uh, it was a small town, and I equate it for those that are old timers that would watch Mayberry. That's really kind of the environment that I grew up, a very safe place. You got on your bike in the morning and you didn't come home basically till dark during the
Mm.
summertime. Um, but also, with that said, my parents were blessed with me being able to be involved in sports, and so I was involved in little league and all those things. We didn't have all those sports, but we had baseball. Baseball was really the sport that you could play when you were young. So I played baseball. My dad was a very good baseball player.
Mm.
He had a tryout with the Brooklyn Dodgers, and so I grew up with the love of baseball.
Nice. What
And
position did you play in baseball, Coach?
well, I think that when you're young, you end up playing all positions.
Yeah.
But I primarily in my career, I ended up playing middle of the infield, and then eventually transitioned as I got into high school to the outfield,
Okay.
and played out there
Gotcha.
more than anything else. And so, yeah, it was I had a really protective childhood. I already said I had a drug problem. My parents drugged me to church. And yeah, you've heard that one.
That
That
first time, man, I
oh,
love it.
really?
I
Wow.
love it.
You
And
need to
your
get
wife
out
tells
more.
me you got jokes, man. Your wife
Oh,
tells me you got the
yeah,
joke.
well, and so those are the things that I just cherish those times as I get older. I really cherish those times and living in a small town. I think that I was probably one of the last of the generation where you got on a bike in the day, in the morning, and you come home at night. You got to get home before dark,
Yeah.
and or for dinner, and that was it. And
Yeah.
most of the time, you find yourself out playing.
Yeah.
So I just grew up loving sports, but in Indiana, most people understand that Indiana's love is basketball.
Yeah.
So I grew up just role modeling. I had a next door neighbor that was a very good basketball player in high school, and I was just 8 years old playing in my dirt backyard shooting, and I just became idolized and wanted to go watch him play. And because of that, that just got me going into the game of basketball. So honestly, that was the game that I fell in love with
Yeah.
probably when I was 8 years old.
It's awesome when when you hear Indiana, you just automatically equate basketball. And for me, I go back to 7th grade. My dad was my high school coach, and he showed me the movie Hoosiers.
Oh,
And of course, Jimmy, I'm Jimmy. I'm just like, oh, I love this movie. And I got past the shorts with the belts and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we're going way back. But man, what a great childhood. I'm sure you just, like you said, look back and have incredible memories.
Well, the other thing that's kind of unique that the person who played the head coach in that the movie is not like the reality of the show, but Marvin Wood was the head coach of
Okay.
that real team in 1954 that won. Milan was the name of the team,
Yeah.
and he ended up moving up to this town where I lived, and actually was the women's basketball coach at Bethel for a while.
Oh,
So
wow.
incredible Christian man that started that whole thing. That
Yeah.
1954 was the first uh, game that was on TV in the state of Indiana, and so
Wow.
with that major victory of a small school of 150 kids
Mhm.
compared to beating Muncie Central. Well, they actually didn't play South Bend. It was Muncie Central. They beat them, and wow, so many people came to that little town to
Mm,
celebrate.
that's awesome. That's a true David and Goliath story right there, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, coach, tell me this. Let's transition a little bit to your faith and
Mhm.
your story there and accepting Christ as Savior, and just share a little bit about your faith journey.
I think as I grew up, and I think lots of times we see this in our Christian homes, is you can grow up in a church, but that doesn't mean that you're a Christian.
Yeah.
And I really felt like I was a good kid. I really didn't get in trouble. I just loved sports so much that would just preoccupy my time. But I think one of the things that happens in all of our lives is we can get caught in the trap of putting other things before God.
Mm,
And that was me. That was me as I got into junior high and I got into high school. I think our identity really kind of depends on what we're good at. Some of it's academics. We can become a god of academics. Some of it could be music or whatever. For me, it became sports. And so as I looked at my life and I reevaluate my life, um, God had to do some work in me to make sure that God was first. And so what he did was he pretty much put me through a trying time. My senior year, a time when you're going to get recruited to Indiana heavily and all those things, I ended up breaking my foot
mm,
and could not play.
wow.
And watching my teammates compete and do all that, that put me on a spiral that I've really had to evaluate my life.
Mm,
And, even with that, Jim, I thought, looking back on it, I still continued to go to church. I knew what that was like. I knew the importance of that. But to
mm,
totally surrender, is a key part of the Christian faith. And when I had sports taken away from me, God had my attention,
yeah.
and I finally made that commitment to Christ because um, I had nowhere else to turn. My identity no longer was in Mike Lightfoot, the basketball player at Bethel High School. And so with that commitment, it was a life changer.
Wow.
And so no longer did I look at bigger schools or things like that, but I was fortunate enough to fall into a place at Bethel College as a player at a Christian school where I look back now and just think that's where I got my roots founded in my faith and was able to live my faith, grow in my faith. And it was all part of God's
Mm.
plan. But I think many times all of us in our life have to reevaluate what's really important.
Ooh.
And for me, I probably was kidding myself.
Yeah.
I probably said, yeah, I think, oh, no, sports was first.
Yeah. Man, coach, I can relate to that. Like, man, it's in my heart when you share that because I live that too. And I bet a lot of athletes and coaches
Yes.
experience that. So I appreciate you sharing that. And it's kind of like I remember sharing with my players, what's your list? And that's just what is your priority? What's on your list? And when you say totally surrender, that's when it becomes real.
I think that there's Christ as your Lord and Savior. When I
So
think of
good.
Lord, I think of submit. I think of, that becomes that's a whole different way of looking at your faith. And whatever we're really good at becomes our identity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have to be very careful
Yeah.
because Satan wants us to just lock into that identity. And we know that that's always going to fall short.
Yeah, it's when you say Lord, it's all about, like you said, complete surrender. It's basically throwing away our list and saying, all right, God, what's your list for my life? Man,
Right.
that's good, coach. Hey, talk to me about this. So you played at Bethel for Homer Drew,
Yes.
great basketball family. Of course,
Oh,
Scott Drew's up at Baylor and Bryce is at Grand Canyon. But those 4 years under Homer, what are some maybe lessons that you learned as as a basketball player? But maybe I'm sure he was teaching way more than basketball when you were there
oh,
as a player.
no question about it. The things that Coach Drew taught me, I went to with a plan of planning to be a coach, and I think that was a key part of what I wanted to do. Really didn't know how to do that. Didn't know exactly what that meant, but under Coach Drew, I really had a strong feeling of how you can pour your faith into your players.
Mm,
You could be a great example each and every day. And those were the qualities that Coach Drew impacted not only me, but every player that played for him.
yeah.
And so I saw that daily. I saw his relationship with the players, his positive relationship, and then his faith was able to, I was able to just put that all together and say, that's what I want to be. That's how I want to do it. And
Mm,
I learned a very, very valuable lesson from him. Actually, the year after I graduated, they were playing for the regional tournament, which got them to the national tournament. And I was coaching in a high school, and I went back to the game. It was packed. I couldn't find him, just to wish him luck. And I went in the locker room, wasn't there. So I went back to his office, and this was probably half hour before the game. Is really the biggest game he's ever had
mhm.
as a college coach. And sitting on his lap was Scott and Bryce,
Oh, wow.
and he was reading a book to him.
Mm,
And it taught me right there, there's more important things than winning a game, but it's being a dad and
mm,
responsibility there. So not only did he teach me how to be a Christian coach, but he taught me how to be a dad,
wow.
a Christian dad, and the priorities there. And those are the things that were instilled in me, and still today.
Yeah.
If there's something I have, I don't think twice but calling Coach Drew.
That's awesome. Man, what a great mentor for you. And I love that you said, he taught you how to be a dad. I
Yes,
think sometimes that balance we have as coaches is trying to climb that ladder of so-called success. And we try to, get to the top and we end up maybe climbing that and it's leaning on the wrong building. We've heard that before, and we miss out of being a dad or a husband. So
yes. Yeah,
great
because
point.
I think we're investing, and you've been in the coaching realm, and those the coaches that are listening or watching this. One of the things you have to understand, you're spending more time with your players really than you are with kids.
Mm, Yeah.
And so, and many times of the season, that's very much the case. So, what are you doing to pour into them and make sure that they always know that they're number one?
Yeah.
If you don't do that, then you're not being a very successful. You might be a very successful coach, but you're not going to be a successful dad.
Yeah.
And many times there's baggage along the way. And I
Mhm.
just see that so much in the coaching profession. And I'm sure it's in the business profession as well.
Yeah.
But if we don't invest in our kids first and make sure that's a priority, then the rest doesn't even matter.
Yeah. Well, I met you. It's been about known you about only a year now, coach. And I can
Yeah.
say this: you are an incredible dad. You're a great father. You're a great husband. You are a mentor to so many players. And again, if we thank you for joining the Christian Coach Podcast. We're with Coach Mike Lightfoot. He's the former coach at Bethel College, currently serving with an incredible ministry, Nations of Coaches. We're going to get into that a little bit. But coach, proudest moment on the court and then off the court. And as you're thinking about that, I looked over your bio, coach, and I know you don't even want me to say it out loud, but man, inducted into the NAIA Hall of Fame in 2009, 794 total wins, more wins in the state of Indiana than people. Are you listening to this? More wins than Bobby Knight and Gene Keady. I mean, coach, you are a legend, my friend. But as I say this, I know you got some stories with basketball, but give us one proud moment on the court and then maybe a proud moment off the court.
Well, I think maybe the culmination of being a dad was in 2007, 2006 or 2007. That's terrible.
Mm,
We were able to win my last national
mm.
championship. We had been After that, we'd been in the finals many times, but uh, both my sons were on the team, and
Oh,
so
cool.
that to be able to cut down the nets really kind of was a way that both players, how many times does a dad have both of his sons playing on the team, and then be able to have the opportunity to cut down the championship nets together as a family. So that was a
That's
great
cool.
experience that I don't know how many coaches out there have ever had that experience of cutting down the nets as really a family. My wife and my sons and myself all were a big part of that. So it almost said this is the culmination of all those things, the sacrifices that my sons have made, the sacrifice my wife
Right.
has made for us to be at that point.
Oh, so cool.
There's so many great memories of going to players' weddings and doing those things that I just love to do, and going back but probably some of the greatest memories I have are mission trips.
Oh,
Every 2 years, I took our team overseas on a mission trip to a third world country,
mm,
and just being able to see their growth. And uh, many times while we're there, they would make a commitment to Christ
mm.
as they were into a different environment and they realized the importance of what they're doing. So I think those memories of really seeing their spiritual lives develop, seeing baptisms, seeing guys come to Christ, uh, kind of is really the key part of why I do what I do.
Yeah.
That should be the purpose that we're trying to the first question is a Christian coach. That's our why.
Yeah.
So the why is not about, just having fun in the bus and all those things that happen on road trips, but really the big thing is why is seeing the seeds have been planted, and then eventually, if you're blessed enough to see them actually grow in their faith, or they want to make a commitment.
Man, that's incredible. I love how you said the idea about missions trips because that became real in my life as
Yes.
I got to attend a couple of those with Score International, and then I got to travel over to Spain with two of my kids. And you talk
Oh
about
my
cutting down the
goodness.
nets, but two of my kids got to go and
Yeah.
my wife got to go, and now you have the family. Those are
Yeah.
memories for a lifetime.
Those
So
are tremendous. And actually, when our players get back together for reunions, it's funny. They're not talking about the national championship.
wow. They're
They're
talking about
talking
that trip.
they're talking about the trip. Remember what this happened? Remember what that
Yeah.
happened? That just recently happened with a bunch of our guys. It
That's
was a
awesome.
blast.
And we're getting ready to go on a trip together.
Yes.
Yes, next month, Coach and I and a couple of people from Score and Nations of Coaches, we're going down to Panama, the
Yes.
country. So
Yeah,
excited to serve with you down there. That'll be
we're gonna
awesome.
be able to see the canal and do
Oh
all
yeah,
those things,
it's gonna
and
be fun.
yeah,
Coach,
I'm looking forward to that.
let me ask you this. We have, coaches listening, maybe former players. What advice would you give the young coach? So that GA, that ops guy, the young assistant. Then what advice would you give that middle-aged coach, 45, 46, maybe he's starting to settle in. And then to finish it, sorry for a three-part question, the older coach that's getting ready to retire.
Yeah.
So as you think about those three kind of phases of coaching, what advice would you give that, like we said, the young coach, the middle age, and then the one closing out his career?
Well, that's a great question because I think there's a lot of things there. But I think for all coaches, if you look at the whole thing, make sure you're focusing on the now, not the next.
Mm.
Lots of times, coaches are so focused in on the
Yeah.
next year, next game,
Ooh,
next this, next that, and
so
they just
good.
don't focus in on the now. And eventually, the now goes away, and the next goes away, and then they're looking like, what just happened? Now I'm old and retired. And
Yeah.
so I think that the first thing for young coaches is to make sure they coach for who they are.
Mm.
I think many times young coaches make the mistake of trying to be somebody that they're not. And
Guilty.
I think that happens so much. They see a coach, maybe they played for a coach. They said, "Hey, I wanted to be Homer Drew, but you know what? I'm not Homer Drew."
Yeah.
And so I had to change and be Mike Lightfoot. I think the young coaches need to understand that they have to be themselves. They have to be the person they are. Now they can have the qualities, they can have characteristics, all those things. Yes, that's important, but they've got to be who they are because if they are fake, the players will know it.
Yeah.
And today's generation is so good at finding fake and phony. They can register that. And if you don't have fake and phony, your message is going to be really muddy. And
Yeah.
so for younger coaches, I think for middle coaches, I think one of the things is always want to continue to learn. Be a lifelong learner. Just because you've been in the game 10, 15, or 20 years doesn't mean that you've got it figured out. And I had great stories of people in my life that helped me kind of reinvent myself because they say, "How did you stay in coaching so long?" And I think probably one of the best things you can do is look to constantly reinvent yourself as a coach. Find new ways that will get you excited about what you're doing.
Mm.
And then you can mold that into your philosophy, your culture. And then finally, for the older coach, I think the the dangerous thing is getting caught in the same track and just staying in
Mm.
that lane. Uh, and I don't think we're taught biblically to put it on cruise mode and wait till we're done. I think, well, I think if you're going to be in a coach, you got to wring the towel. You got to do everything. You got to pour in to your life, and you got to be totally wanting to be a lifelong learner. Continue to get better at your job. Continue to invest. And probably one of the most important things is invest in the younger coaches. Be a
Mm.
mentor to so many other young coaches that are coming up. It's not about you anymore. It's about what you can give back to the game.
Gold. Gold, my friend. I'm telling you, I'm listening, and I don't know when you're going to write your book. You need to get ready, man, and get your wife Jackie. I know Jackie; she can help you with that. But man,
I
great
only write
advice.
with I only write with a crayon, so it
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Hey, those are the ones I read the best, man. I want to transition, Coach. Nations of Coaches. Man, what an incredible ministry, nonprofit organization. Explain maybe the vision, the purpose, your role, even the story of how you got involved in the position you're at right now.
Wow, that Nation of Coaches is the best kept secret
Oof.
in college sports of what's going on. And my prayer has been in the 5 years that I've been a Nation of Coaches that there'll be more of awareness that no, there's an organization out there that's real and is doing things that people can't even comprehend.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the biggest thing. Nation of Coaches is founded just to serve and equip coaches in the best way we can. And through that, we've been able to do amazing things both on and off the floor. I was at the Final Four, which all coaches go to,
Mm-hmm.
and Pete Weary was there at a booth, standing there, probably telling jokes or whatever. I went over to him,
What he's good at.
that he's good at. And he knew me, and he said, "Hey, Coach Lightfoot, whenever you get done with the game, I think this should be a really good fit for you." And you kind of put that in your back pocket. You think about it, but then you go on coaching, and you just continue on. I did that for a couple of years, but as I prayed about what's next,
Mm.
in our lives, I could see at the end there's going to be a time when I'm going to put the clipboard down. And so we just kept going back to the Nation of Coaches booth. And then we finally went to a marriage retreat. We really saw the passion and the purpose of Nation of Coaches, that they really want to invest in coaches. That's where my heart was as I continued to mature in my coaching. Was time, okay, this is the love I have. I have a love for coaches. I know
Mm.
what they're going through. I know the struggles, and my wife had a great feeling of what happens with coaches' wives that get behind and are left behind, and then their marriages are in trouble. So
Yeah.
we decided to partner together because of that, and just felt like we're called, we're all called for some purpose or cause, and I just felt that we were called by God to join this organization to really try to invest in the ministry of helping coaches and their wives. And so my wife and I did it together. And so it's been a tremendous ride. It's been so amazing to be a part of an organization that really is real about what they're doing.
How long have you been with Nations now?
This is my fifth year,
Wow.
fifth year that I've been a part of it. And many times I had people say, "You probably wish you would have done it, 10 years before." But God's timing is different. So
Sure is.
it has been an amazing experience for me. I know my why, I know my purpose, and I don't see any biblical reason why a person should retire and not be involved in still lifelong investment in people.
Yeah.
And so this has given me a motivation like no other
Yeah.
to continue to impact. I can't impact wins and losses on the court anymore, but I can impact lives and serve coaches the best I can in my region.
Well, you know what you're doing, coach. You're following your own advice as now a mentor, giving back, investing into those coaches. So I applaud you. I celebrate with you. I partner with you, and I'm
Yes,
excited to
yes,
be on the same
you're
team
doing the
as you.
same thing.
Yeah, it is amazing ministry. It's obvious, Coach, you have a love for your players, and the relationships are important. And I remember someone sharing with me, when we love our athletes as players, it's
Yes,
what they can do for me. When
yes,
we love them as people, it's what can I do for you? And there's that shift that
yeah.
so
That's
many
a great
young
comment.
coaches don't quite get yet. And you've got it, you model it, and that's good. Man, this has been incredible. We're running out of time again with Coach Mike Lightfoot, former college basketball coach, Bethel College in Indiana. He's now serving with Nations of Coaches. He is a legend. You're laughing at that term, Coach, but you are, and I appreciate it. Here's what I like to do, Coach, as I wrap up podcasts. I do 10 questions in a minute. So this
Whoa.
is off script. This is fast. First thing that comes to your
See, I
mind.
played your game before. I
Oh,
didn't do
watch
very
out. I
well.
remember. I
I don't know if I
remember.
want to do this game.
You got this. All right. So clear your mind. I'm going to start the clock. We got a minute. And here goes the questions. I'm going to start it now. Are you ready?
I'm
All right.
ready.
Favorite junk food?
Potato chips,
Favorite go-to restaurant?
hacienda restaurant,
Favorite sport to watch?
football,
Favorite sport to play?
basketball,
All
now
right.
pickleball.
Yes. Truck or car?
What?
Truck or car?
Oh, car,
Book or movie?
book,
Cabin in the woods or beach house?
cabin in the
Ooh,
woods.
nice. All right. Favorite Bible character,
David,
favorite Bible verse.
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Good
Just
one.
very
Philippians 4:13. And last but
13.
not least, we got 5 seconds. One word to describe you.
Passionate.
Nice. Coach, you made it. 58.2 seconds, my
Oh, I
man.
got it
You
within
got it.
time.
Listen,
Yeah.
this has been incredible, Coach. I could talk to you probably for another hour, and I'm sure we will. But as we close, what is one thing that I can pray for you about? And we'll kind of close in prayer.
Wow, that's a tremendous thing. Thank you for what you're doing. I'm so excited that you're part of our family. You like-mindedness. I've told coaches many times, I see myself in you, and that's exactly what I do. When I see
Uh-huh.
you, I say, I see myself in you. I see exactly the track that you're on. I think that the thing that prayer um, for me is so important, the power of prayer. But with that, I think I have a tendency to sometime I need to have focus on
Mm,
specific prayer.
okay.
And I think the prayer that I've been praying here lately is search my heart, make sure my motives are right in what I'm doing, because I think we all have the potential to deceive ourselves.
Mm,
And so we need to be able to have, Lord, this is not about me. This is not, but search my heart, make sure I'm doing the right things, right place, right time. Give me your eyes, give me your hands, give me your feet.
incredible. Well, let's do this. Let's close in prayer, huh, Coach?
Yep.
God, thanks for an incredible day, conversation. Thank you for Coach and his heart and his family and his years of service. And just, it's so obvious his passion for you, for the game of basketball, the platform that you have given him. Thank you for the relationship that I have with him and the mentor that he's in my life. And as we pause and just think that we won't let pride get in, Lord, you will search our hearts, as Coach says, that you'll give us your eyes to see, you'll give us your ears to hear. We want to be your hands, we want to be your feet to serve you. Pray for Mike and his family, his boys, his ministry with Nations as coaches. Thank you for just his incredible leadership and passion, and may he continue to serve you well. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Coach. Enjoyed
Thank
having
you.
you.
Thank you.